Unless you've been living under a digital rock for the past year and a half, you've probably heard of and used ChatGPT. But did you know that it is also a powerful tool to help you become more confident on camera, more magnetic, have better messaging, and ultimately attract and convert more clients? Well, in this episode of the Camera Confident Podcast, I'm going to walk you through 5 ways that I use ChatGPT to do just that. Welcome to Camera Confident. I'm your host, Shirlee Engel, former TV correspondent turned entrepreneur. Tune in to master what to say, how to say it, and how to create buzz for your brand. Whether you're hitting record for the first time or trying to land major media opportunities, I've got you covered. Get ready to crush it on video or stage, attract more clients, and bring in more money so you can run your business and live your life your way. This episode is going to be a juicy one. We're talking about one of my favorite tools, ChatGPT. It can be so effective in your business, helping you come up with better language, more magnetic messaging, helping you with strategy, helping you with social media. Isn't that a beast that we all feel like we have to constantly feed? But here's the thing, if you don't use ChatGPT effectively and you don't know how to craft the right prompts to get it to spit out the kind of stuff that you can actually use, because let's face it, it does spit out a lot of junk too, then you're not going to make full use of this incredibly powerful, and I would argue essential tool in today's digital business landscape. So in this episode, I want to walk you through the various ways that I'm using ChatGPT right now, as of this recording, to make my business better and really just making things run more smoothly and taking a lot of that guesswork out of the content production process. Let's take a step back. And for those of you who aren't familiar with ChatGPT, it is an AI software that can basically act as a digital assistant for you. It can do research. It can generate strategies. It can write content. It can come up with headline ideas, with content posts, with a whole content plan. It can literally do just about anything when it comes to brainstorming and producing stuff for your business. Now, here's the thing. It obviously doesn't know everything, and you also have to train it to think like you and talk like you. It doesn't just come out of the box and know exactly how to sound like what you want it to sound like. But the more prompts you feed it, the more you give it over time, the better it becomes at churning out content that is going to sound more like you and be more useful in your business. Have you ever had an episode of writer's block? When you've been at the communications business as long as I have, there have been countless hours spent staring at a blank screen. This has happened to me so many times. And the beautiful thing about ChatGPT is that while I don't rely on it to outright write everything for me and just copy and paste, I do use it every single day to cut hours out of that, using my brain to do things that I could really do way faster with the support of AI. This enables me to really zero in on the key tasks that only I can do as the CEO of my business. This podcast is all about getting visible. So the first place I want to start is using ChatGPT to help you get visible. Even PR pros can use this to get ideas about what are the podcasts in your niche that you can pitch. What are some summits or shows that you want to be on? What are some of the best ideas that you can pitch? What are some interesting subject lines you can use in your pitches? Anything to do with researching, pitching, following up, you can ask ChatGPT to do for you. I recently got ChatGPT to give me a list of 20 different podcasts that I could pitch to be on. And what I did is I went through each of these afterwards and thought, okay, what is the podcast about? Is this my target audience? Because I didn't want to spend all that time doing that research myself, I then went back to ChatGPT and said, great, can you give me a bit of a rationale? Why are you suggesting this podcast? Who's the target audience? What kinds of topics would resonate with this podcast? Once you land those podcast, media, and stage gigs, why not use ChatGPT to help you come up with an outline, with some ideas, with even a first draft of the remarks that you're going to say? ultimately I would end up writing it and taking some ideas from what ChatGPT had. But it was so great at giving me ideas. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. One of the experiments that I ran early on with ChatGPT was getting it to come up with content ideas for a TV show that I used to be a regular guest on. I would ask it to come up with potential pitch ideas. And a lot of times I would email the producer with 3 different ideas, and maybe 2 of them were mine, 1 of them was ChatGPT, or vice versa. And 9 times out of 10, she went with the ChatGPT ideas. Now, of course, I didn't necessarily say which ones were generated by ChatGPT, which ones were mine. It doesn't matter. All they want is a great segment, great content, and if it comes from AI or not, you're still the one showing up live and talking about it and doing it in a way that you know what you're talking about. So don't be afraid to get a little bit of help, even just in the idea and brainstorming stage, because ultimately it's still going to be you that goes out there and crushes it, right? I can't emphasize enough how much ChatGPT has helped me refine my own magnetic messaging. Even as someone who teaches this, who coaches entrepreneurs on this, I still love getting that outside perspective on how I can make things better. Because no matter how good your messaging is in this day and age, in 2024, when I'm recording this podcast, you have to constantly revisit your key messaging. You can't just set it and forget it. This is something that you're always going to want to check in on. Am I still hitting my audience's pain points? Am I still understanding what they want? Am I still speaking to the people that I want to attract in a way that's going to be compelling, in a way that people are currently consuming information? Because the people that don't adapt, that kind of set something and think it's done, that's when it gets stale. And eventually it will stop working. You do have to keep up with the current trends in marketing and how things are evolving, especially in this fast-paced digital world. And ChatGPT really helps you do just that. No matter how experienced you are in copywriting, communications, broadcasting, writing, you always want to see if you can get more ideas and refine things even more. Now, if you're one of my Camera Confident Academy students, you know that I use ChatGPT on many of my coaching calls. It's such an effective way of helping clients work through scripts, work through elevator pitches, work through all of their magnetic messaging. And what we do on these calls is literally open ChatGPT and we use ChatGPT along with our own creative ideas to brainstorm the best possible elevator pitch. So sometimes I'll take a client's example and say, okay, what's your niche? Great, let's have ChatGPT generate an elevator pitch and see what it comes up with. It always needs work. But what we do is we go through and we see words that ChatGPT came up with that maybe we didn't consider. And then we start to integrate that with our own ideas. And in the end, we finesse it and revise it and iterate until we come up with something that we all think is absolutely fabulous. Another thing you can do with ChatGPT for your magnetic messaging is feed it what you want to say, and then ask it to put it in more conversational terms. If there's someone that you really admire who has great marketing or has a great voice, don't be afraid to ask ChatGPT to use that style and see what it churns out. Play with it. You really want to turn these prompts into a conversation rather than just a one-way thing where you ask it something, take what it says, and then act on it. The quality of your outputs is only going to be as good as the quality of your inputs. ChatGPT is fabulous for helping you feed the social media beasts. Everything from coming up with a strategy in the first place, to coming up with captions for your posts, coming up with scripts, writing a post for you in your voice, and you do have to train ChatGPT to talk like you, and then you take what it spits out and edit it a little bit so that it's in your voice, but at least it gives you a framework, something to work with. I run almost all of my posts through ChatGPT. Sometimes I'll have written something in advance and I'll paste it into ChatGPT and say, can you make this a little sassier or a bit stronger? Or can you emphasize this? Or what's a good call to action to go with this? Or I need to have a catchy subject line in an email that I'm crafting about this or something like that. Anything around creating content, coming up with headlines, coming up with the strategies. I encourage you to use ChatGPT for social media if you're not already doing so. Here's a couple pointers though. You're definitely going to want to tailor it for the platform. And you're going to want to tell ChatGPT what kind of voice and tone you want it to craft things in, because I have seen it churn out some downright nausea-inducing stuff. We're talking like littered with emojis, just really cheesy stuff. The last thing you want to do is have all of your posts sound like they were generated by ChatGPT, which is why you always want to inject your own personality into the mix. If you're a service-based business, which I am, I run a program called Camera Confident Academy, and I have to communicate with clients a lot. That means a lot of emails. That means in my email sequences that I send out, all of those things. I also rely on ChatGPT to help me come up with some of that language, some of those client communications that maybe, it's been a long day and I really want to come up with something sassy and I want to, think of new ideas to engage my audience, to write in my newsletter, to have as podcast ideas or summaries. I could spend time doing that myself, or I could plug it into AI and have it do that for me. Sometimes it's not ChatGPT. Sometimes it's a different platform. I record my video podcast in Riverside FM, and it generates AI transcripts and then comes up with show notes if I just hit one button. So ChatGPT isn't the only game in town. There's a lot of other platforms you can use. I'm talking about ChatGPT in this episode just because it is the one that I use the most. It's the one that I have a subscription to, and it's the one that a lot of us know the most. But don't be afraid to play around with other platforms, especially as things progress, and they are progressing really quickly in the AI world. By the time you listen to this podcast, there may be others that are even more prominent than ChatGPT, but a lot of them are integrating this technology within their user experience. So making use of that whenever you can to try to find efficiencies in your business. That's always the name of the game. Doing more with less time. Finally, I like to use ChatGPT for planning and organizing. Sometimes I have a long to-do list and I know I can plug it all into project management software, but I want to organize it a little better. I want to prioritize it. I want to know if there's anything I'm missing. Is there someone that I could outsource this to? Basically, any question that you ask as a business owner with regards to operations, to organizing, to prioritizing, to time management, all of that is also really, really great for AI. Whether it's ChatGPT or there are some platforms that already integrate that into the time management aspect of your business, try to use AI to cut down on the number of hours you're working, because you want to work smarter, not harder. And that is something that, especially as things evolve so rapidly and you wonder, how do people get so much done in a day? How do entrepreneurs churn out all this stuff? Yes, some of them have great teams, but a lot of them are also leveraging the power of technology to automate, to make things happen faster, to write things faster, and to ultimately make the machine a little more well-oiled and smooth, and really cut down the time that it takes to do all the things. There you have it, just some ways that I use ChatGPT in my business to be a better communicator, be more confident on camera, come up with better content, and show up in more places. Think of it as a personal assistant that's there for you 24/7. They never complain, they never talk back, they don't need any benefits. They just work when you want to. I would love to know what you thought of this. How are you using ChatGPT in your business? How is it helping you? What might you do differently after listening to this episode? Did I convince you to use it if you're not already using it? The contact information to get in touch with me is below in the show notes. It's also coming up on the screen. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Camera Confident, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Camera Confident. Help us grow by subscribing, liking, and sharing this podcast. And be sure to follow me on LinkedIn at Shirlee Engel and on Instagram at b.camera.confident. See you next time.